Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mic'd Up with McIlvoy. Half hour of sports conversation. We've had fun with the earlier episodes with the Houston Rockets celebrating their NBA championship. We've recently sat down with Hall of Fame bound Andre Johnson, also his former coach here in Houston with the Texans, Gary Kubiak. A lot of that content you can find on KPRC2 Plus and click2houston.com. But this is Mic'd Up with McIlvoy. We're having fun. And tonight, hey, why not? We're going to talk some Houston Texans football because it is training camp time. A lot of expectations coming off that fantastic season. We're going to jump right into it right now. I got a couple of guys in the know that know all things Houston Texans as well. Aaron Wilson, our insider for click2houston.com. Jonathan Alexander does a great work as well in the Texans beat for the Houston Chronicle. Guys, welcome to the show. Welcome in studio. And man, we got a lot to get into because it's back. Football is back. It's a good feeling. And did the offseason kind of fly by for you guys? How'd you feel about it?
Man, I swear, I was just on vacation and I needed a few more days. But you know, I love football. Anytime you get a chance to cover some hits, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah,
it's an exciting time. But yeah, summer flew by. It feels like just the other day we were at the mini camp, and now we're back for training camp. And before we know it, we'll be at the Hall of Fame game in Canton, and season's on upon us.
Amazing time. We were just talking, and man, there's so much buzz in this city. And I mean, you guys were around when, we went through some difficult years and losing seasons, no direction with the organization, that coaching changes, just the stability coming off that change last year when they hired DeMeco Ryans, the stability he brought, the direction, the belief the players had in him from day number one. It was evident they wanted to play for this guy.
Absolutely. DeMeco Ryans changed things. It started with him. He brought that stability. Even it came down from Nick Caserio. He even kind of started to change his ways a little bit. But there was an organizational kind of togetherness. They had figured it out, and players want to play for him. Coaches want to coach for him. He kind of instills a belief that not a lot of coaches have. It's a gift. He's been doing it for a while, and I think that's permeated throughout the building, and it's led to the success that you see and what they could potentially do this season.
I mean, if you're a player, you're walking in, especially if you're new, you walked in, let's just go last year. I mean, there's DeMeco, who looks like the guy can still play in the NFL, man. He's stayed in unbelievable shape, but if you look up what he brought to the field as a player, he's carried that into that coaching side.
There's a relatability and authenticity with DeMeco as a two-time Pro Bowl linebacker, a hard-hitting guy, very intense. Like you said, he could probably suit up for a couple snaps or two, kind of like Brian Cushing, even at his age, could still probably line up. When I think about DeMeco, he's just a very emotionally intelligent guy, and that's the difference between good leaders and great leaders, and he's galvanized the locker room. He's created a belief throughout the city, and they had lost some fans. There were some fans that they were like, okay, I'm done, I'm not going to spend money anymore. Now people want to buy jerseys, they want to buy hats, they want to be a part of it, and the Texans will tell you the bandwagon's fine, jump on. Yeah, they're good with that. And I think DeMeco, he is the change. That's the biggest change that's happened other than CJ Stroud.
What did y'all notice most about DeMeco last year? What I saw was sure any coach is going to make mistakes on the sidelines, in-game decisions, all that kind of stuff. But to me, at least, it seemed like those were limited from what we were accustomed to seeing in the previous years before that. He made some smart decisions out there, and a lot of times it paid off for him.
Yeah, well, I think that was one of the strengths when he was hired, his ability to make adjustments on the fly, to alter the team's plan when things weren't going right. I thought Aaron hit a great point. His genuineness is, I was talking to somebody recently who had come in contact with DeMeco, and he said, a lot of coaches around this league have a kind of used carsman salesman type vibe, and DeMeco isn't like that. So, I think that's one of the reasons why C.J. Stroud is the way he is, because of that genuineness, and I think that's really helped players really gravitate and want to follow what they are doing, and that's why you see the success they're having.
I mean, DeMeco, there's a lot of trust there. DeMeco brought these guys in, and some coaches will be kind of over your shoulders looking at every move you're making. He lets these guys coach. He lets them put to work their expertise and make those decisions. He's got the input, obviously, right? But he trusts these guys.
Yeah, he's not he's an overseer, but he's not a micromanager is the right word I'd be looking for. And I think during the preseason, what you may see him allow some other coaches to call games while he kind of sits back and watches. I think that's his style. He wants other coaches to be elevated and get other positions. I'm hearing that they're allowing Gerard Johnson to have a lot more leeway as well, and he seems to be a future offensive coordinator. Maybe he's a future offensive coordinator for the Texans when Bobby Slowick gets promoted. But he celebrates his coaches, and he wants them to have success and move on to different places, and that's important.
About Bobby Slowick, just speaking of him, you just mentioned him, man. Here's a guy, year number one, just had a fantastic season as a coordinator with the amazing numbers that CJ and his offense put up. Immediately got the attention, and that was kind of the buzz being around the team. We were wondering, okay, how serious is his attention going to be? Because it is a matter of time, I think. Another good year, good chance he's not going to be here next year.
Right. He was a finalist, and a lot of people came away from the interview process very impressed with him, the teams that he met with, and felt like, hey, if he had become our head coach, we would have been happy with that outcome because he's very smart, he's very genuine. He's also someone that I think is trending because of the offense, because of what he did with a rookie quarterback. So imagine, what could he do with another quarterback? Maybe he could develop a lot of quarterbacks. Maybe he's someone that is good at everything. Thought he was good at public speaking. He got the buy-in from his players. He had, I think, a little bit one hand tied behind his back a little bit with not having a elite Pro Bowl type running back. He had good running backs in Devin Singletary, Dameon Pierce, off year for Dameon, but good in the past. I look at Bobby and I think they really did the right thing with him and Gerard. Give them a little money, augment the contract. Yes, they went out there, looked around, but that's not disloyal. It's about, like Jonathan said, it's about development. You don't want to come somewhere where they say, okay, you're going to be QB's coach, you will never rise. Who wants to work at a place like that? You have no chance for advancement, whatever profession you might be in, whatever walk of life. I think that you have success when you see other people graduating to head coach, OC. And if you're good at hiring coaches, as he's shown he is, then you find the next guy. Everyone is replaceable to some extent.
Well, it says a lot, too, when you hire these guys and they're being sought after by other teams. Shout out to DeMeco and these guys for hiring them in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, if I could add on to that point, I mean, the NFL is a copycat league. Yeah. And which coaches are doing the best right now? The coaches that are from the Kyle Shanahan tree, and Bobby Slowick was from the Kyle Shanahan tree. But aside from that, Bobby Slowick has a lot going for him. He's the son of a coach. He's been in the league. He's been a part of organizations that were successful. He's been on both sides of the ball. He absolutely, like Aaron said, did well in his interviews with other teams. So I absolutely expect him to be coaching as a head coach next year because they have all the pieces to be successful. Adding Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, C.J. Stroud in year 2. Unless there's a major injury, this offense can
it's going to be hard to be stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no doubt. Let's dive into it because, depending on when you're watching this, training camp might be starting if this is leading up to Thursday or already early days of training camp. But bottom line is football is back and there's all eyes on this offense, and we'll get to the games and all that kind of stuff. But let's begin with the offense and what CJ was able to accomplish. I was just taken back by the poise he showed last year as a rookie, really from the start of camp.
It's a true field general, and you really can't fake that kind of leadership, organizing things, having people over. He's got a chef. Guys regularly are having a nice meal over there and some camaraderie.
Think he'll invite the media? Can we go?
Oh, man. I heard his chef is good.
I bet he is.
But he's a hard worker. He looks a little different. You saw there were some photos posted with the trainer. He's shirtless. Looks like he's a little more cut up this year, a little stronger. Looks like his legs are a little more muscular. I would say that, being around, I would say elite, but just the top people in their profession, whether it's like a Michael Rubin with Fanatics or a Tom Brady, because he's looking for knowledge. He's not just looking to network or to be cool. He's not really that into the social media thing. It just kind of comes to him. Yeah. But what I see with CJ is someone that he has just started to scratch the surface of the potential. That was, to me, just the appetizer. The entree, the full meal, the gourmet meal that he can cook as the quarterback. That's still coming. I think we just saw part of what C.J. Stroud can do.
Yeah, I think his ability, whatever happened after that New England Patriots preseason game, whatever film he looked at, he corrected like that and just kind of turned things around. He became a different player after he threw that interception, and he just seems to have an ability to learn from his mistakes. He's accountable, and I think a lot of people see that. One of the things when I was doing research on C.J. Stroud, writing a feature story on him early in the season, was talking to his teammates, and all the rookies were saying, C.J. came up to me the first time he met me and was like, "Hey, man, I saw your tape, and you're a really good player, and I look forward to playing with you." And that made a huge impression. I remember Jared Patterson told me this specifically.
Yeah.
And I think Tank Dell or it was another player had confirmed that. And I think that made an impression on them. And I'm like, oh, this guy seen my tape. What is he doing watching my tape? Jared Patterson, a 6th-round pick.
Right.
And that goes a long way. Aaron mentioned going to having a chef at his house and inviting guys over. And I think that kind of was the first steps in him kind of forming his identity as a leader and somebody that people want to follow, and then he has the skills to follow. And it was just on the climb from there, and you can only expect success from here on out.
A couple of minutes before we go to break, but more on CJ. We can go on. We can go an hour on CJ Stroud. The receiving core he had last year, guys, and obviously he really found a home with Nico Collins. But now you mentioned Stephon Diggs is in the picture. You got Dalton Schultz returning. Yeah. You got weapons out there. This sky's the limit. Add in an improved running game. Hopefully the O-line. If the O-line really does its job, sky's the limit, I think, for this offense.
They could be a very high-scoring offense. We've seen great offenses over the years, like the Rams' greatest show on turf. Maybe they'll be like that. Maybe they'll be a team that races up and down the field and scores lots of points and keeps the defense fresh on the sidelines. I think Joe Mixon is going to be a big difference maker for them, and he's a great pass catcher. A lot of the players, they talk about how big Joe is. He's like a linebacker out there. But what CJ has as far as weapons, he's just going to have to hit the open man, and someone's going to be open. I don't think that anyone has the kind of defensive personnel to just say, okay, we're going to take away every single one of your weapons.
Yeah.
I can't see it. I think Diggs, Nico, someone's going to be open.
Tank Dell, healthy Tank Dell again. That's going to be huge having him Tank back.
Absolutely. I agree with everything he said. Joe Mixon, 29 touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. The only thing I'd be concerned about is the offensive line. Laramie Tunsil is going to give you what he's going to, top 3 left tackle.
Right.
Titus Howard, how is he going to be coming back from an injury? Where is he going to play? Right tackle, left guard. Kenyon Green, is he improved enough to be the starter at left guard? I've heard good things about Drew Scruggs at center, and Shaq Mason is going to be what he's going to be at right guard. But
how about the interior?
Yeah. The interior left guard, and then Titus Howard, is he going to be healthy? His backup, if he's not healthy, is Blake Fisher ready for the spotlight? That's the only concern. But aside from that, they have strengths in every single facet of the offense. Tight end, wide receiver. When I list the weapons they have, I always leave off one play, and I'm like, oh,
forgot about that guy.
Forgot about that guy too.
I know. The sky's the limit, as I mentioned, I think, for this offense. And, man, it's going to be fun to watch. You're number 2 in this system for a lot of guys. We're going to take a quick break here. Mic'd Up McIlvoy. We're talking Texans as we gear up for training camp and the preseason ahead with Aaron Wilson and Jonathan Alexander. Time for a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Mic'd Up with McIlvoy, talking Texans as camp is underway. Preseason will begin before we know it with the Hall of Fame game. And, hey, the regular season is going to be here in early September. Hanging out, chatting it up, chopping it up a little bit with Aaron Wilson and Jonathan Alexander from the Houston Chronicle as well. Aaron, of course, our insider for click2houston.com. And, guys, we ended last episode, we were talking about a little bit of Joe Mixon. And, obviously, a lot of folks counting on him. How's this running game shaking out? I'm anxious when I'm watching in camp. I want to see this new look Dameon Pierce come in. Everything you've seen him during this offseason, he's got that body ready. Hopefully the confidence is back in year 2 of this particular system. I mean, if you get him more involved as well, I think that's going to say a lot for this running game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Dameon Pierce was the change in the system and the type of running game that they've run. They run a zone running scheme, and I think he was used to the power gap running scheme. So I think that change was difficult for a second-year player, and now he's year 2 under Bobby Slowick's system. So he's had time to figure it out, and maybe he has a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder after falling from number 1 to number 2, right? And he doesn't have as much pressure on him. I think he did have a lot of pressure on him to produce, and he shouldn't have that pressure on him now. And he can just go out and he should be fresh when Joe Mixon's out there.
Yeah.
I fully
we didn't hear much from him back half.
No, definitely. He dealt with injuries. He struggled. He wasn't. I don't think he was as patient in looking for holes. He goes straight through the holes. And I think now that he's had a whole offseason to ponder on that and to focus on that, I think he should be much improved and less pressure.
Yeah.
He did something too. When you think about the offseason, I think it was smart. He gained some weight back. I think he was too thin last year at training camp. He came in trying to be more of a home run threat, and he got away from his bread and butter. He also, and they didn't disclose, but he was sick during camp and had lost a significant amount of weight. I mean, compared to what he is now, he was practically emaciated. He lost 20 pounds, and he looks a lot better now, like he should look, like he did as a rookie. And I think he's really fine-tuned some things with his body and worked on his nutrition. He's a young guy. He's very mature, but he's still a young man, and a lot was expected of him, like Jonathan said. I think, if anything, it was too much change for him, and everything went wrong. But he handled it. He was stand-up. He kind of stayed to himself. Obviously, he wasn't looking to talk when he wasn't out there as a starter anymore. But I thought he was pretty gracious and supportive of Motor Singletary, and I think as a number 2 back, that's a heck of an option because you're not asking him to start.
No,
Joe Mixon's going to touch the ball so much.
Just the limited times he's able to touch that ball, be productive. I think that's all they're asking for right now.
Absolutely.
So offense, we talked about that, C.J. Stroud and the weapons, and I mean, who knows? It's all about health too. You got to stay healthy and get after it. This schedule is tough, and I'm going to get to the schedule in a minute, but I want to talk some defense now because that's exciting. A lot of people right now, and with Danielle Hunter now on board opposite Will Anderson Jr. You got Autry there. It's going to be inside probably a lot of the time. He can produce, get you a lot of sacks. I mean, you got guys coming in all directions at the opposing quarterbacks here.
Yeah, Danielle Hunter was one of the best edge rushers. Hadn't got a lot of credit, but he was up there, I think, 16 sacks, which was top 4 or 5 in the league. He had four fumbles. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league, but I've heard that Will Anderson looks like a man amongst boys, dominating the competition out there, and there's an expectation that he's going to have a big year. DeMeco Ryan's mentioned it. He said, if you want to know about our program, look at Will Anderson, and I heard he's doing everything on the field that you can expect. And so Texas really wanted to enhance their edge rushers. They wanted to get after the quarterback a lot more, and you saw that in going after Danielle Hunter. I think the inside is a little iffy. Tim Settle, Fali Fadakansi, you wonder if they're going to have a big year. I think the hope is that they would. But otherwise, they've improved elsewhere. And Kamari Lassiter, a rookie cornerback, has already seemed that he is heading for that starting role opposite of Derek Stingley. They have a lot of interesting pieces. Azeez Al-Shahir, like Aaron mentioned, is a good player. I think they have a solid defense.
He might be an X factor too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I hear everything about his leadership, and he's just running his team. They didn't really have that type of leader last year on defense.
Blake Cashman was a quiet guy, outstanding linebacker, but this is different, and the kinship, the ability to really understand things without having to say it between DeMeco Ryans and Azeez Al-Shahir, played for him with the 49ers. I think that's going to be a big difference too, because he could be an extension of DeMeco on the field. They didn't really have that. If Jalen Petrie bounces back, it was a tough year for Jalen last year. If he gets back to playing close to what he was like as a rookie, making a lot of plays, intercepting the ball, they've got, in my opinion, a chance to have a much better secondary. Kamari Lassiter is a guy, he calls himself the locksmith. He's not far off. I mean, if you're a rookie and you're making plays on the ball that are intended for Stephon Diggs and you're close, that bodes well. It's the corners that worry me that never bat down a pass, that don't disrupt, that aren't jumping passing lanes, that never intercept a ball. And, they're the old cliche, like, you want a dog that's going to bite, not just bark.
Right.
And this guy is tough. He's into it. He's out there on the fields of Houston working hard every day. He's out there in the sun in this 100-degree weather all the time. And Kalen Bullock's out there. These guys are working really hard. And I like his football acumen. I like his knowledge of the game. And when you come from Georgia's defense, that you know how to play. That's an outstanding college program. And maybe he is plug and play. I didn't see anything from Jeff Okudah that led me to think, wow, this is third time the charm. C.J. Henderson showed me a little bit more to make me think, okay, well, let's be open-minded about what could C.J. challenge. But I agree with Jonathan. I don't know if we have a competition. I think maybe he already won the competition. They just haven't said it yet. And then Kenyon Green, maybe he's the left guard, but there's still be things to watch.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of like third linebacker, a lot of other spots. But yeah, I mean, I like Kamari a lot. I mean, I think he's ready to go.
I want to get back to the back end in a minute. Just follow up to Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I want to ask you guys, because I think just the development of Will is going to be off the charts. It was going to be off charts already, but just being around a guy like Danielle Hunter, how he can really improve his game. And I'm sure he's learned a lot already in this offseason.
Yeah, he talked about learning from Danielle Hunter.
Yeah.
Was a really good pass rusher. Myles Garrett as well. He's taking a lot from a lot of different guys' games and hoping to add that to what he is. He really did a deep dive on what he did wrong last year, and he's taking that improvement. And you look at a lot of the top pass rushers in this league, they had big years in year two. J.J. Watt was a guy who shot up year two.
Yeah.
I looked at Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt. Like, those guys had big years. Once they figure it out after year one, it's like smooth sailing from there. So I'd expect the same from Will.
We saw Petrie this past week leading up to camp out at an event and doing a great event at Dick's Sporting Goods. But, I mean, he looks like he's in great shape. He's got that fire in his eye, too. I think he's ready to get going and put last year behind him and really elevate again, and play to the level he thinks he could be at.
I think he did a nice job, Randy, of compartmentalizing it, but you could just see it in his face sometimes, or weighing on his shoulders, because he has so much pride, and it did hurt him to be benched. He had earned it, though. He had, it's a performance sport. His performance wasn't what it needed to be, so it showed the accountability they have for the defense and for the whole team. When I see Jalen now, I think he looks more comfortable. He knows the defense better. He's saying the right things. He's a very, very genuine guy and very truthful. And if he says, I know it now, I believe him. I think like last year, he was just thinking too much, not reacting. He just got to a point where he was almost guessing out there. And it wasn't the true Jalen Petrie that we had seen at Baylor and the year before.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys, because in a second before we wrap it up, we got to talk about Andre Johnson real quick. But when you look at this schedule, and this schedule is getting a lot of the attention, 11-8 combined with the playoffs last year, the schedule is going from here to here. Talent base on this roster is also going up. How do you think that's going to translate? I'm initially looking at maybe another 10-win season. Maybe they can sneak another one out. But, man, the quality of the competition and a couple of those key stretches they have, I think in the month of December when they go 3 in a row, was the Chiefs,
Miami, and then Baltimore. Christmas Day on Netflix.
That's one heck of a stretch right there to try to get through. How do you guys approach it, and does it put more emphasis in that first half of this season to really pile up some wins here?
I think they've got to get off to a fast start, and the first game won't be easy. It's a healthy Anthony Richardson.
Right.
It's going to be a marquee matchup. E.J. Speed was talking about this at a local football camp. This is a heavy rivalry, and when you talk about the Colts, as he said, 1-1. When AR and Gardner Minshew won that first one, I don't think CJ was anywhere in that first matchup where he got to by this last game where he is so advanced. And it's going to be a fun rivalry.
You look at the division, they're going to win this division. At the end of the day, they're going to win this division.
Yeah, I think they have the most talent of the division. I do think Tennessee got better. I don't think that they're going to challenge Houston for the title. I don't think Indy is going to. I don't think Indy got good enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still going to be tough. Like you mentioned, the back half of their schedule is difficult. So they're going to. I agree. They're going to have to go on a run early in the year, and they're going to have to win those games because they're going to take some lumps. And you also look at where their bye is. Their bye is until week 14.
I know, that's a long time to wait, man.
That is going to be tough. So I think they're going to have to get through that first part of the season and maybe take some lumps in the end and hopefully get on a roll late so they can have some momentum if they do make the playoffs. But I predicted an 11-6 record.
Okay, well, we'll hold you to that one. Hey, last couple of minutes of the show here. You can't talk Texans in this off-season, or preseason, I should say, without mentioning what's going to go down at the end of the month in Canton, Ohio. Man, this city is so behind Andre Johnson, and you could tell what this process means to him. And I had a chance to sit down with him a couple of weeks ago, and he got emotional just talking about it. And he'd just been to Canton, had a chance to see that gold jacket. And the story I got from the Texas PR is, man, he broke down and wept. I mean, it's so emotional right here, the journey to get to Canton, Ohio in the Hall of Fame. I can't wait to see that all go down in Canton.
Yeah, I mean, Andre, if you talk to people, fans and people who were around Andre Johnson, what he meant to this city, he was their player for the generation of players who grew up during that time. He was their guy. He was the number one guy. He was the first superstar they had on the team.
Right, absolutely.
And he, embodied greatness. He was a hard worker. He was quiet. He didn't say much, but he was great, and he was going to practice hard.
But when he did talk, people listened.
And when
Gary Kubiak told me that.
Yes, and when he talked, people listened.
Absolutely.
So he means a lot to this city. He's their first player going into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
They hope J.J. Watt, which he should, go in next, but he's the first, and he gave it all for this city.
It's a great milestone, and no one more deserving than Andre. Yes, they didn't reach the team success, but he was always in the first three names you would talk about at wide receiver, and you had a game plan for him.
Right.
And we went to Gary Kubiak's, and Gary's the presenter, just talking about how much he was featured in the offense, how much he had to draw up everything, and how much he wanted to be a part of it. And he would give him a look. Mm-hmm. I got to get the ball. I got to be involved. And Gary would take those cues.
Gary mentioned that during the game he would be kind of hovering by him. Yeah, you're saying it. Take note of that. When Andre's close, you better listen.
The great ones, sometimes they don't have to say a word.
Right. They listen. Tell you what, special career, special guy. He's so close to many. He's remained in the city as well. And when we get to Canton, guys, it's going to be a flurry of Texans fans that are making the trip there. And Gary Kubiak's going to present him as well. And Gary doesn't say a lot either, but he's got the speech ready to go. And you talk about the emotions. He was emotional too when Andre called him.
Yeah.
And said, "Man, would you present me?" That meant a lot to him.
Yeah. Andre credits Gary for a lot of his success, and I think there was one story Andre told me that he said Gary told him to learn the whole offense and learn multiple positions. That really helped take his career off to the next level, and that's why he chose him to be his presenter.
It's been a good conversation. The Texans camp is underway. Preseason is here as well. The preseason game's coming up, and before we know it, they'll be opening the season in early September on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. Should be a lot of fun. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you. Jonathan Alexander from Houston Chronicle. Aaron Wilson, our insider for click2houston.com. We'll be seeing a lot of each other in the days and weeks ahead. Good stuff, guys.
Thank you.
What a great conversation with two guys that know the Houston Texans well, Aaron Wilson and Jonathan Alexander. Get you fired up for the new football season. This fan base here in Houston cannot wait, coming off what happened a year ago, a playoff run, a 11-win season when you combine the postseason. What a job DeMeco Ryans did in his first season. C.J. Stroud, he's got more weapons around him now. We'll see what happens in year two of this new era with the Houston Texans. It all points to the opener coming up in early September on September 8th. Texans at Indianapolis taking on the Colts. For the entire crew, thanks for watching Mic'd Up with McIlvoy as we focused on the Houston Texans. See you soon.